If you can't tell me what you're talking about efficiently, how are you going to get anyone to do anything for you?
I'm going to stop you right there. I love the word that you just said, efficient. I think more people need to be more efficient with the way that they tell their stories. The most basic part of improv is you start with yes and.
Yeah.
You always say yes and. So if somebody says, I have a banana in my pocket, you say yes and. That's how you continue on improv. And I think the same thing is true with a conversation. We've all been in conversations where it just stops right away, where you ask a question and then they just go, sunny.
Yeah. And now it's over.
And now it's over.
In business, we talk so much about the obvious things, about strategy and numbers and execution. But what actually makes someone follow someone else? What makes them investable, makes them followable? It's the way they tell the story.
Yes.
And how they get other people to believe in that same vision.
I'm a cancer survivor.
Oh my gosh.
And I went through it very publicly on social media. So many people got back to me and were sharing then their vulnerabilities in such a powerful way. And I feel very thankful that vulnerability resonated.
Yeah, I totally agree. You've been called like the Oprah of LinkedIn.
Right, which is hilarious. Everybody's like, oh, did you make that up? And I'm like, please, I really did not. I really did not, because who would name yourself that?
Goldie, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I really appreciate it.
Yes.
So today on Don't Be a Jerk, we are digging into something that sounds soft, but I think is actually a superpower.
Yes.
It is learning how to tell your story and doing it with heart.
Yes.
And Goldie Chan, for the viewers at home, I think you are the most well-versed person on the planet for this. Mm-hmm. You've made this a life mission. And I think, in business, we talk so much about the obvious things, about strategy and numbers and execution. But what actually makes someone follow someone else? What makes them investable? What makes them followable? It's the way they tell the story.
Yes.
And how they get other people to believe in that same vision.
Yeah.
And it comes down to, typically, and I want to hear this obviously from you, but it's emotion, it's storytelling, and it's authenticity. Mm-hmm. And it turns out that there's decades of organizational psychology that have shown this isn't fluff. There's this Harvard meta-analysis of 200 plus studies that found that, this is interesting, emotional intelligence is twice as important as IQ or technical skills for leadership effectiveness. Yeah. And I would posit this is becoming exponentially more true as AI does a bunch of that work for you.
Yes. I think that people think that AI will also do emotional intelligence if you train it well enough. And I'm sure you've heard this from your colleagues too. I've heard it from my colleagues and my clients. They're like, don't worry, Goldie, I've trained ChatGPT. It now is as close to me as humanly possible. And it's always hilarious to me to hear that phrase.
As humanly possible.
You just said the word human in that phrase.
Right.
So I think that AI can do so much, obviously, with intelligence. I mean, it's called literally artificial intelligence.
Yeah, right.
It can do so much with databases, whatever LLM it's trained off of, whatever.
Yeah.
But I think the emotional intelligence, the thing that connects us as humans, I think that it also just can't know everything in your head and your heart. And I know that's so fluffy. So fluffy, but so true.
I don't think it's fluffy.
Yeah.
I think, look, I say this often to my team, but it turns out that as humans, we're not the strongest species on the planet. We're not the fastest. What we are is we're emotionally connected. We work together. And that is a huge part of life.
Right.
Is that emotional connection, which, I was on a Zoom the other day and I made the joke, but I realized it actually wasn't a joke anymore. I said, none of us have met in person, so we don't actually know if any of us are real.
Right.
And I was like, whoa, that's going to be true soon.
Wow. And I think that's becoming more and more this wildness of also, if you talk to someone over text, are you talking to their AI chatbot or their AI agentic? Let's throw in the buzzwords in.
Do it. Throw 'em.
AI agentic, blah, blah, blah. That's a buzzword, blah, blah, blah. Are you talking to that? Or are you talking to really another human on the other line? And I think humanity is becoming more rare and more powerful. And as we go into this new season after or post the age of AI, I think that we're going to have such an appetite for more humanity.
I completely agree. So let's talk about, I'm so excited you're here, by the way, again.
Yes. I'm so excited to be here. Well, we were having such a good chat in the green room, I have to say.
Yes.
Wait, you have to mention your wife right now because you said such kind things about her.
She is amazing. She's Italian. She's a professor.
Yes.
And what were you saying? No one likes to be lectured to, except I happen to love being lectured to by my wife.
Yes, absolutely.
She's so much smarter and better than me in every way.
That's amazing.
It's true.
There, that was our commercial break. That was sponsored by.
No, Goldie,
Yes.
so you have done an amazing job, I think, especially in this digital age,
thank
of
you.
focusing on how you embody all these things,
Yes.
authenticity and storytelling, and what it means. And, you've obviously amassed a wonderful following. People want this.
Yes.
They crave it. And I'm also very excited. You also have a book out now.
Yes.
Which is called Personal Branding for Introverts.
Yes.
And everyone's got to read this book. It is a roadmap to how to get there, which is really important.
Yes.
So maybe I'm going to start with the basics, which is, how did this start? Like, you're on this journey now. You're putting this incredible work out into the world. But when did you start realizing the importance of narrative and telling stories?
This is going to go way back. So we're going to go all the way back.
Let's do it.
I think when I was in middle school and high school, I used to love to write poetry, and I used to write these little stories all the time. And when you're that young, are people listening to your stories? Maybe not. But I realized when I got to college, it was a really helpful way to write stories actually with other people. Oh. This is a way of saying that early on I got drafted into doing marketing. And I didn't even know it because I was writing marketing copy in college, and I didn't know it because amazing. I was writing, the little summaries of like, this club is this, and we do this, and this is who we want to connect with, which is, now I know is marketing 101. But at the time, that was the stories that I was helping other people write and other people to start to understand. And so post-college, I had a very interesting dive through a lot of different things. I was a fashion designer. I used to go to New York Fashion Week.
Cool.
I used to do all of these different things, but I landed in digital marketing. And from there, I realized, what people care about, what people resonate with, is all those little stories. Mm-hmm. They want to hear those little stories. So if you think about original, it's funny you say this, original Twitter, 140 characters back in the day.
Right.
And it was truly just these little miniature text stories. And that's what people wanted to see. Same with Facebook. Yeah. It used to be images plus like that block of text.
Yes.
And that was like your story was, I went to this party.
Yeah, but still.
It was so funny.
It's the first time I
went to this party and like, here's 5 pictures or whatever from this party. And it's so funny to think because now that's so archaic, right?
Yeah,
we have so many ways of showing. We could literally make a 3D movie in 20 seconds. But it's so funny to think all of that, though the best versions of all of that all have their basis and powerful storytelling.
Absolutely. Remember, what was that Twitter offshoot? Was it called Vine?
Yes.
Remember that?
Definitely
how many
Vine.
Seconds was it again? It was like 7 seconds or 14 seconds.
It was 7 seconds, and it was was Vine 14 seconds? Vine might have been 14 seconds.
It was one of the two.
But it was that repeating.
Yes.
So things that people like to repeat, like dropping something on the ground or walking. I remember so many walking videos that I saw.
Yes,
they were so popular at the time.
And so creative. Like the fact you can tell a story in 14 seconds or however many seconds, is amazing.
Right.
So here's the thing. One of the things, and I want to like, if you're up for it, kind of decode some of this is, I think our brains, if you just go back to how we used to transfer data information, it was oral.
Right.
We would tell stories and different people remember things in different ways, but for the most part, numbers and stats don't really stick to us. Stories stick to us. And this is especially true when you have emotional highs, you have emotional lows. Like emotion is a huge part of existence.
Right.
But memory of decision making, there's all these things that we know to be true.
Yes.
And you have these beautifully kind of prosed LinkedIn posts.
Thank you.
And they often read like stories. First question. What is the story formula? Like when you're going to sit down and you want to tell a story,
right.
what does it look like? How do you think about it?
Okay, can I tell you the bad version first? So
please.
When things exploded, I would say when I exploded on the scene a little bit on LinkedIn in 2017, 2018, which now is like a decade ago almost, there's this thing called Broetry. And I don't know if you've heard this term before.
I have not, but I already like
great.
it.
I am so excited to tell you about this. So first let's go into the bad version, then I'll tell you how I think about mine.
Okay.
So Broetry was like, bro, I got stopped on the way to like work by a dog, but I went and helped the dog. And then it's like spaced in a very specific way. So there's like a total formula to this. And at the end, you're like, I was late to my interview, bro. But at the end, the dog was the interviewer. So I got the job. And that would be like, and obviously it's not a dog, but it would be like, I got stopped on my way by Simon. And and Simon like fell on the ground, but I picked up Simon because I'm a helpful person. And at the end of the day, like it taught me about B2B sales.
It's always B2B sales.
It's always B2B sales. And now it's AI. AI. So it's like, taught me about AI training that this LLM. Yeah. It's, but it's so funny. So that's Broetry.
Okay.
There's a formula and a function to that. And thankfully, I think it started to die. That format has now been made fun of. It's starting to die down a little bit on LinkedIn. So when I think of the way I write, unfortunately, I am not a trained Broetry professional. I am not.
Sounds like it's fortunate.
It's, I think it probably is fortunate. So when I think of my posts, though, on LinkedIn, I think, first of all, there's not really a formula, but I always like the first sentence should say something. It should catch your eye. It should be interesting. It
like
should
a hook.
A hook. Exactly. It should be a hook, but maybe not quite so, bro, I got stomped by a dog today, right?
Yeah.
It should be a hook that makes sense.
Yeah.
So it makes sense for you. And it's funny because I recently had a chat internally with LinkedIn, and LinkedIn said one of the ways to think about, especially long form posts that you do on LinkedIn, is that first sentence or two should not only have what you're talking about, but also prove your worth. So,
oh my gosh,
which I think is too much. I'll be honest. I don't do that in mine.
Prove your worth?
Yes. So showing that, for example, you are the product manager of everyone's dreams. And I think that's so heavy. I think if I had to read a bunch of posts that were like, here's exactly what the post is about. By the way, I'm the product manager you should hire for everything. That feels so heavy. That feels like so much. So I like to just start with an intro that just says something like, if I'm at a screening, I'll be like, it's so important to see representation on screen, right? And then the next part will go into, why is that representation so important? So I just saw Freakier Friday on the Disney lot, and there's a bunch of really cool Asian representation I didn't know about. And so I would start a post, which I actually need to write this post, so I maybe write this post later. But I would start with like, why that was so cool to be there and present.
Yeah.
And then I go into the story, right? I got invited, went there, heard this amazing panel. There's a new Asian male lead, Manny, who's wonderful. He's been on The Good Place and also, a bunch of other places. But then I end with, this is like the takeaway, right? Because we still have to have a CTA. We still have to have a call to action.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And so mine, for the most part, outside of book launch, my CTAs are not like, click on this link. My CTAs in general are, what does this make you think about your own community? Or how are you going to build in, for example, self-confidence into your daily lives, and drop it into the comments? Because I think starting a conversation, and I'm sure you agree with me,
totally,
is the most powerful thing you can do on any platform.
No question. Yeah. No question. For a lot of reasons, not just because like the formula likes it and you get higher, but it's because people want to contribute. They want to say things. They want to be part of the conversation. And I'd argue, great stories and hooks pull people in. Right. And they, it's like I was talking to this person about having great conversations. Right. And they said, you know what starts a great conversation? Turns out it's vulnerability. And I said, oh, really? Because think about it. If someone sits down and it's at lunch, and let's say it's in the Bay Area, let's say it's at a nice restaurant, and they go, oh God, Aspen in the springtime, the runways are so short. My PJs are always in the shop. The maintenance is crazy. Right. You start then instantly going, how do I match that? Right. And then, because you want to match that energy, because we're always trying to reflect and be mirrors. Yeah, I've been to Jackson Hole once, and
Oh, well, I just was in, I know I was just in Colorado, but I was there for this incredibly exclusive conference that no one else can go to. In fact, only 2 people in the world go to that conference. It's just me and my dog. Right?
Exactly. Where the universe is, if you open up with like something that's hard, people now aren't off guard. They're like, oh. And they think about the thing that they had, a shared story that they had that was similar, and then it starts a real conversation. And that's, to me, it's like such a, I think people should tell stories, obviously, with a purpose. And absolutely. I'm sure one of the things you think about, I try to think about, I'm sure I don't do a great job, is what do I want someone to feel once they've read this story? What's the feeling?
What's that emotional takeaway? What's
the emotional takeaway? Yeah.
Emotional takeaway. What's that feeling in their heart? And I'll say something else that I think wasn't even in the show notes, but I'll just share this with you. So I actually am a cancer survivor.
Oh my gosh.
And I went through it very publicly on social media. And I did that very purposefully, not because I was trying to get likes and comments and shares, but because for me at the time, going through a very difficult thing, it was actually a little bit of a physical lifeline for me. I wasn't able to go out and do things because I was immunocompromised, but I was able to connect over, I'm not trying to do the motion over here that you see, but like, typing on my keyboard or on my phone. Yeah. And it was a way to still be connected to my community. And it's funny because every once in a while I work with brands. One brand I work with is Adobe. They're great. But I got so many weird brand sponsorship offers.
Requests from that
I turned down all of them because that is not, I'm not trying to shill cancer products.
Yes.
Throwing that out there.
I see what you're saying.
Right.
Yeah.
But it was an interesting time to, I think, tell that incredibly vulnerable because this was, I went through the process of losing all my hair, now it's thankfully back in green again, which is fabulous. The natural color.
Yeah,
of course. Right. Never have that. But I think that it was such a vulnerable moment for me that I then shared. And so many people got back to me and were sharing then their vulnerabilities in such a powerful way. And I feel very thankful that that vulnerability resonated. But once again, it wasn't, I wish I could say it was strategic because, thinking really like 5 years ahead of time.
I mean,
but it wasn't at all strategic.
It was you being real.
It was me
and
being
telling
real.
your story.
Yeah.
And look, kind of like not helping them shell cancer products aside,
right.
Perhaps part of the reason that they were so attracted to you was because you were just being yourself authentically in a beautiful way.
Right.
So here's I think, so I mentor founders on how to tell their story sometimes. And I have a very specific audience. So it's like, how do you tell your story to an investor?
Right.
So they understand
and that's incredibly important.
It's hard. Yeah. And I think I have a perfect formula for it, which I'd love to run by you.
I know. I'd love to hear the formula now. Yeah.
Okay. The thing though that I would always find is they wouldn't take the investor along with their story.
Yes.
They'd start somewhere where they were out of context. And it was, as a result, the investors were like, I don't even know what you're talking about. And if you can't tell me what you're talking about efficiently, how are you going to get anyone to do anything for you?
I'm going to stop you right there. I love the word that you just said, efficient. I think more people need to be more efficient with the way that they tell their stories. No, I'm so serious. I think you should always have the incredibly short version.
Yes.
And then you should have this beautiful, long-winded version.
Yes.
Just the two sides of the coin.
I completely agree with that. Have them both ready.
Yeah.
Read the room, maybe.
Read the room and be like, be able to say in 2 words, or 4 words, I am a horse trainer. But you're going to remember that about me.
For sure.
You're like,
is that true?
No, I wish I was. Okay. That would be very cool.
The plot thickens.
Yeah, the plot thickens. Let's go really off base with this. No, but then there's a long, beautiful story, right? Like, I'm a horse trainer and I realize horse trainers all need this product that is missing in the marketplace, and that product is blah 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 blah, and I blah 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 blah, right? But you have that short version. I'm a horse trainer.
So here's an example. So I had this,
which I know you have a ton of founders who are horse trainers, so I'm glad I could throw that in the mix.
It's a booming industry. There's
growing exponentially.
AI's taking jobs. What else are you gonna do?
Wait, that from the horse trainers.
Train some horses. Yeah. So I remember he said, hey, I really need help.
Yes.
Telling the story. Actually, interesting. His executive coach said, hey, you need to talk to Healey to do this. Right. So and his first slide was just a grid of stats. Here's the brands, here's the numbers, here's the ARR run rate. And I was like, oh. And then I go to the second slide. And I was like, what is this? It was like a graph. And I was like, what's then? And it was just all numbers. And I didn't know the story.
Right.
And so finally I was like, hey, I'm so sorry to ask this. What do you do? And he told me, and this is really funny, but I'll tell you the story.
Yes.
And they did great. They raised a big round.
Great.
I won't say the name.
Claps for the round.
Yeah, claps for the round. Yeah. Your worth is nothing unless you raise. And they did at-home semen testing.
Okay.
And so I said, look, so here's what you need to do. The first 3, it is always this 3. It is situation, complication, solution.
Great.
Situation.
Right.
Is there's a huge amount of disorders and diseases that can be detected from sending in semen samples. Mm-hmm. Complication. Mm-hmm. It's really uncomfortable to go into a doctor's office with like whatever, an old mag or something and try to give them that. Solution. Send it from home where you can do it incognito.
Oh, Oh, interesting. Okay.
And so now,
oh, so I have to clarify this. I thought that they're testing it at home. They have like their little Theranos
you
box.
shoot it in. Yeah.
I mean, I hope not.
It's not a little box. It's a good size box.
It's a good size box. It's a powerful box. It can test everything. It can test over 50 different things. I'm just saying that's the marketing. That's
you sent it in.
Yeah, you sent it in. Okay,
so
great.
And then
great.
he did this, and it was very simple. It was similar data, but because he brought people along, they got it. And so here I think is a formula for a fundraising deck.
Right. I'm just wondering what imagery now is that they used. But okay, we're gonna keep it clean. We're gonna keep it above board.
It was very tasteful.
I was very much. I hope the smiling family. The smiling partner, right? That stock image of the smiling person.
I think it's mostly
at the table. Yeah.
So the formula is I think it's this is situation.
Yes.
Because the situation tells them the general idea.
Great.
So like here's a general sense, and it gives a sense of volume.
Yes.
So most diseases can be detected in semen, and 72% of diseases can be detected by semen, whatever. Complication. This is the problem that the ICP who does this is now facing.
Right.
Here's a solution for it.
Right.
And then you say, here's the product and how it works. And so now you've taken the user through. Okay, got it. So I'm now reading this. I get there's this interesting problem that's big. I now see the solution, and now I understand literally how the product works.
Right.
So now I'm like, okay, now I'm interested. How do you make money? Great. Next, unit economics. Here's the foundational molecular level unit economics.
There is then all the graphs, right? How do you make money? That's when you can throw in the graphs. That's when you can throw in the numbers.
Very simple visual, but very simple visuals.
Right.
Then unit economics, you go, oh, this is interesting. Well, if these are the unit economics, how big of a market is this? Great question. Market size.
Right.
That's the next one.
Right.
Rough math. Okay, got it. So big problem, great unit economics, big market. Now, if this is the market, there's got to be other people that are trying to do this. Competitive set.
Right.
Here's a competitive set. Here's how we're going to win. And they go, oh, well, if this is a competitive set, what are you doing to prove you're going to win?
Right.
Here's my go-to-market strategy and the traction against it. Oh, this is great. But there's got to be something wrong. This all seems too good. Awesome question. Next one, risks and mitigants.
Yes.
And people, I think this is a part of storytelling that definitely founders are hesitant to share is the scary, bad stuff.
Right.
But if you don't do it, people don't trust you.
I think it's better that you say risk and mitigants, aka things that make it less bad.
Yes,
right?
I agree with that. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. The less bad thing. What is mitigants? No. But I think that it's so helpful to spell that out because I do think it does make you seem more intelligent, or not seem, but be more intelligent in the room, because you said, I know what's going to go wrong.
Yes.
Here's the things that are wrong right now that maybe also I don't have a solution for. And that's that vulnerability that we were just speaking about.
Exactly.
That you are vulnerable in the room because you know what the potential risks are. And you're offering that on a platter and saying, actually, I don't know how to solve this, but I'm sure that investors and whatnot. I don't know. I grew up in the Bay Area. I was around tech people. I'm not doing a startup right now, and I'm not trying to get, but I've heard so many of these terms. But I assume, right, that when you're sitting in front of the folks that will give you the chunk of money, let's break it down like that they want to know that you know what will go wrong.
Totally.
And that you'll be honest with them. I'm sure honesty is a huge part of that.
Honesty is so critical because they want to know that moving forward, you're not going to lie. And then once you've outlined the risks, they also want to know who on your team is going to help you to make sure these risks don't happen.
Right.
Team.
Right.
And then the final slide is use of proceeds and what we're going to look like when this proceeds is completed. So it's situation, complication or problem, solution, product, unit economics, market size, competitive set, traction or go-to-market strategy, risks, team, use of proceeds. 12 slides.
Like you have memorized this, which is deeply impressive. And you have said this to probably so many founders at this point.
I want everyone to hear this.
I know. You've said this to so many founders at this point where you're just like, I know exactly. Ask me what slide 4 is like. And you're like, I know exactly what this slide looks like. No, and I'm sure that this is so helpful because I'm sure you have seen so many decks over the years that I'm sure are just wild decks.
Well, this is the thing, and this is why I love what you're doing, Goldie, is it turns out that the most critical way, I think, to accomplishing what you want to accomplish, which hopefully is a bunch of good stuff, you have to learn how to communicate effectively.
Yes.
And I would also argue, which you know better than me, the most effective way to communicate is storytelling.
Yes. I think I always say this to clients. So I work with a lot of C-level executives and a lot of director level and above. And I always say, when we talk about specifically their social media strategies, I think it's always helpful to be in conversation with. Because if you're not in conversation with ... you are shouting alone in the forest. And I love forests.
Right.
I love trees. I love green.
Yeah.
But it's helpful to be in conversation
Totally.
with. And just like when you're pitching, you better be in conversation
That's
with
such a good
those
reminder.
VCs
Yes.
instead of
Thank you for saying
shouting at them, because I'm sure they don't like that. I'm
Yes.
not a VC, but I would just assume.
Thank you for saying that. It's even for teaching. I mentioned my amazing Italian wife, who's a professor.
Yes. You have one more after this.
I gotta hit the three. I gotta hit the three.
I was like, do this. No, three.
Is so often, like, if you want to teach a lesson,
Yes.
people forget whatever you want to call it, the Socratic method,
Right.
and I have information to deliver to you,
Right.
which is way, way less effective than prompting questions and having conversations for them to
Right.
obviously like
Well, I think
respond
it's
and be in conversation.
The basics of, and I have to say this because we're kind of in LA right now, but the basics of improv. So if you've ever
Let's talk
heard-
about this.
Let's talk about this.
Yes.
So the basic that we're going so off base, and I love it.
Let's do it.
But the most basic part of improv is you start with yes and.
Yeah.
You always say yes and. So if somebody says, I have a banana in my pocket, you say yes and. Like, oh, that's great. You have a
Yes,
banana.
and it's a telephone.
Yeah, and it's a telephone, and it's a working telephone. Oh, yes, and that's
Yeah.
how you continue on improv. And I think the same thing is true with a conversation,
I love
because
that.
we've all been in conversations where it just stops right away, where you ask a question and then they just go, sunny.
Yeah. And now it's
Right?
over.
And now it's over. Cloudy. And then it's over. Instead of sunny. But, I love it when it's a little cloudy, because I grew up in Portland. I didn't grow up in Portland.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, I grew up in Portland and I love that colder weather. How about you? That's that yes and that I think is so powerful
love that. That's
for
such a good point.
storytelling, right? And for being in conversation with somebody else, because we could have this podcast and it could be literally 20 seconds. If you asked a question, I just said, great.
Yeah. Right.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Next, like
Cool, bro.
cool, bro. I'm so glad I was able to introduce you to the term broetry.
The broetry is a big deal for me. This is going to be all I do on the flight back.
I'm so excited for you to now do a bunch of Instagram posts or LinkedIn posts that are just broetry. Yo, bro, I was stopped on the way to the lighthouse. No, I'm so excited.
Okay, so have you ever seen that? So you mentioned kind of like the need to know your audience but tell stories efficiently. You ever seen that? It was the like behind the scenes South Park creators thing where they said you should only ever say but or therefore between story segments.
Wow. No, I haven't seen that.
And never say
But
and.
South Park is brilliant.
It's brilliant.
At storytelling.
They're so good.
brilliant at storytelling. And I think that they have all of these different pieces for folks, I guess, who haven't watched South Park before. All of the episodes, the way they're stitched together is wild. It's wild. And they have all these different stories that are contained within one episode. And they'll have different storylines that kind of like converge and things like that.
Yes.
And it is what you just said totally makes sense, because they'll show one scene, it's like Cartman at home with his family, and he'll be like, well, I don't want to do this, and then they'll flip to the other side and they'll give the reason exactly why he has to do that thing, right? And then they'll flip again to Cartman being like, fine, I guess and it's this cohesive story that makes sense, that they're telling with, I forget if it's originally was like paper cutouts, but like, that 2D animation style that's fabulous. I think it's so funny that you said that, but true.
Well, and I think what it speaks to is I've been reading this book, Stolen Focus, recently. Have you heard of this book?
No, I haven't.
It's great.
I just said yes, but I haven't.
Yes, and I'll read it too.
And I'll read it too. Yeah.
It's about basically the diminishing attention spans of humans, which is a clear thing.
Absolutely true.
I guess the spoiler is that it turns out it didn't just start 14 years ago. It started out in the early 1900s. Right. Actually, it started out with the advent of the newspaper press.
Ah, okay.
Because the more information we can take in, the less we pay attention. So you take it all the way forward is, I think the reason that they talk about therefore and but.
Yeah, that newfangled invention, the newspaper.
Yeah,
let's talk about that for the rest of the
printing
podcast.
press.
The printing press.
Talking about trading horses.
Gutenberg.
People just pay attention less unless you really hook them. And so I think what it also means is your ability to accomplish the things you need is like your ability to tell that story is critical.
Yes.
It's really critical. So let's think about it. So let's say you're sitting down and you're coaching one of these execs who's going to tell,
or let's be more real. I'm coaching the person on their team that will be stuck with doing this.
Great. Like what's the one-on-one? Like when you sit down with them, how do you start getting their heads around the importance of telling stories, but more importantly, like how you actually do it?
Yeah. So first of all, I always start with, let's back up a little bit before we even get to the story. You're sitting at the campfire. Who are you telling that campfire story to?
Oh, that's great.
Right. So I like to start there, make it so simple. So who are we talking to? And I will segment that actually into 3 different buckets. So I segment that. I'll start with the middle bucket to make it more confusing. So the middle bucket is your peers. It's you and I. It is people who maybe we don't have the same job or function, but we're at the same level, I would say. And then there's the people right above you. That's your clients, your bosses, your investors, your board, right? I'm just going to use all the big words.
My wife.
Your wife. There, you said it 3 times. We did it. Yes, high five. So your wife. So let's just replace all those other words I said with your wife as a top block, and then peers, and then the bottom would be literally the people listening to this podcast, your audience, right? So I always start with asking executives, who do you want to speak to the most? Because that informs how you speak to them and the stories that you tell. Because the stories that you tell your peers might be quite literally different than the stories you tell your board, right? And your investors and the way you frame the same exact story will then also be different than the way you tell your audience when you're trying to share your knowledge and help them grow, because maybe they're at a career level that's maybe a step or 2 below you, or maybe multiple steps below you. So it's really, who are you speaking to at that campfire?
I love that.
And then how are you telling that spooky story? Are you telling that spooky story, right, to your friend? Are you telling it to the head of the campfire association? I don't know. I don't think that exists. Or are you telling it to your friend's kid that they brought along? Who are you telling that campfire story to? And the same is true of your personal brand at the end of the day. Even if you are an executive of a Fortune, I almost said 500, let's just say Fortune 10 company, right?
Yeah.
The same principles are always true.
There's like some saying involving this, which is, I'll kind of interpolate it as storytelling, but if you're telling a story to everybody, you're telling a story to nobody.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think that that's absolutely true. I think that if you are trying to speak to everyone all at once, you speak to no one. And no one hears you. That's maybe a better end to that, because no one hears you because you are such...
It's a better story.
That's a better story. It's just noise at that point. It's too much noise.
Totally.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, we kind of talked for a second about how when I'm coaching founders on how to tell the story about their company, one of the things you might not think you'd include is risks and mitigants, because you wanted...
Yes. Once again, mitigation. Can I just call it all the great words you've been using on this podcast? Mitigation. Mitigate. Wonderful word. One of my favorite
shifting.
words. Paradigm shifting. Agentic. I'm just going to say it a couple more times, so, But mitigate. Yes, go on.
And so I think there's something about, and you've done this so well, is I feel like you also weave heart into your storytelling. And if you're up for it, I'd love to hear more about, like, was that did you start that way? Is it just who you are? Is it something that you started to do, and as you wove it in more, you got kind of better and better feedback, and you saw how did you decide to do that?
Yeah, I think the strategic marketer answer to that would be like, well, I tried it with 5% heart, and then when that didn't work, I notched it up just like 7%, 12%. I don't know how that's actually possible.
A heart graph.
Heart graph. And then I mapped it out, and I said, well, this one got 0.2 comments more. So I think that for me, I always tell my stories with heart. I remember I pitched a show years ago, a children's show in one of my other lifetimes, to a big one of the big folks that are here. That's a big studio.
Got it.
And the feedback that they gave me, and I was very young at the time. I think I was like 23, 24 maybe. And I pitched this, and I wasn't the more polished writer I am now, but I pitched this, and the feedback they gave was, this is really rough, Goldie, but which is honestly not the worst feedback in the world, but they said, this has so much heart. And they were like, this is an unpolished, uncut gem. So go back, take some more, years, or please take classes. Please work on your craft, and then come back to us when you're more of a polished gem in general. And that was beautiful feedback.
Yeah.
How is that not great feedback to hear? And that's how I take rejection, by the way. So I'm just like,
very healthy way of taking
thank
rejection.
you for rejecting me. Please give me more feedback. And it's
a learning opportunity.
It's a learning opportunity. And I always try to put in my heart into what I write, and the way I relate to people, and the way that I think about even messaging about the best ways to do B2B sales to your network. I had to say it.
So right? Here's what I learned by rejection from the studio about B2B sales.
You learn about B2B sales. And if you like to work more, click on this form, this job form, and I will get in contact with you.
The thing that's so funny to me is I thought that was just a joke that everyone knew.
No, it's not.
People still do it.
Not.
Every day. You see multiple. It's like, I went to my grandfather's funeral, and here's what I'm talking about B2B sales.
About B2B sales. And oh my gosh, yeah, I think here's what I think. It must work for some people, because why are they still doing that format? See, they're the ones mapping out that graph that says, if I put 10% more B2B sales quotes in there, then it'll work out. And I don't know. But yes, I definitely personally always put in heart into my work. So that's just been typically something that I've done with what I've written over the years. And it's funny because my technical skill set, and I worked in digital marketing in startups and in the Bay Area and then in entertainment for over a decade. It's funny because almost my skill set built around my heart. Wow. So I learned how to do all of these skills, these technical skills. I learned so much of the work that I now know how to do. And it was built around this impulse to be a good person, which is perfect for a podcast, to be a good person and to help others and to live with, I think this is maybe an overused phrase, but live with purpose. And I think a deeply overused word is authentic too.
I don't think they use enough, actually. I think it needs to be incorporated more. Maybe it feels overused to you because you think about it a lot.
Yeah, I think the meaning of the word is so powerful. I think the actual physical use of the word is maybe a little overused. For sure. Yeah.
But it's the intent, and I think what I would call it is relatability.
Right.
I mean, I think you have, you've been called like the Oprah of LinkedIn.
Right, which is hilarious. So that originally came from, an article by the Huffington Post, which everybody's like, oh, did you make that up? And I'm like, please, I really did not. I really did not, because who would name yourself that? But, there are people out there that would.
So here's why I think you got that title, which I think is great, by the way.
Yes, thank you.
There is this 2021 study in this like humanities and social sciences, and they found that followers' perception of an influencer's authenticity directly predicted trust, engagement, and willingness to act on their recommendations.
Right.
So it's almost like if you really want to, in a positive way, influence people to do things, take actions, think about things differently, you can't fake it.
Right.
And people will smell it out. And it turns out this is equally true within organizations. When you have leaders that are perceived as being authentic, it leads to higher employee engagement, well-being, psychological safety. And it's because the daisy chain is, authenticity builds trust.
Right.
And then trust unlocks performance.
Right.
And trust unlocks actions. And so to me, it's like, you've done this brave thing to be vulnerable online, to go through your stories. You've done daily posts, which I'm going to talk about in a second.
Yeah, please.
Really impressive to do that. Discipline.
Yes. And
what I'm so curious about is, I guess, what was the first moment when you shared something vulnerable? It's maybe a little scary. And you saw it was like this positive reinforcement. People were like, that's good. I want that. I'm here for you.
I think going back to the cancer example, because it's so massive, right? So let's use that. So I announced it on every single platform I'm on, which is too many platforms, truly. And I'm on every platform, but I announced it on every platform. And my team was just kind of monitoring it because I took the day off, because that's really healthy to do after announcing something like that. So I announced it, and I just wanted to be very public with it. So I announced it. I took the day off, and the next day I had so many people message me and say, what can I do to help? Right. Or privately messaging me and saying like, my dad is going through something really similar.
Wow.
Or saying like, I have a friend going through something similar. Would it be helpful to connect you to so you would have support network and stuff? And I think when you put yourself out there vulnerably and authentically, genuinely, I think that it's we as humans are at the end of the day animals.
Yes.
And we respond to those animal characteristics. Like if your eyes genuinely widen, right? You go like, oh, what's wrong? Right? We still respond to those things.
Oh yeah.
We respond to those social cues. And I think now that we have the internet, now the internet becomes this new place where we learn how to understand social cues.
Oh, that's so interesting.
In a fascinating way, right? And I'm sure you've seen that too, where you are
for sure.
on the internet, or because you talk to so many founders, you see maybe how your founders are on the internet in a good and bad way, right? And how they relate to people. But I think the internet is now our new version of the library, and our social media platforms, our profiles are our little books, that we have that others can read.
I like that.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is they read them, but then engage in conversations about them.
Right.
Instantly.
Right.
And I love how you said it. There's a wholly new landscape of social cues as it relates to asynchronous written communication.
Yes, and third great word, asynchronous. I feel like I wish I had like a digital thing so I could be like,
bingo cards.
Bingo card, and I point to all the great words that you just said. But asynchronous, also great word. Yes.
Yeah.
But asynchronous communication, I think, is so important. So in my book, I write about introverts. But this is not true just for introverts, but so many of us are overwhelmed by the constant and instantaneous barrage of communications. In fact, we were just talking right before this in the green room about getting with the producer, and we were talking about, oh my gosh, there's so many notifications,
so many inboxes,
so many things that we have to manage.
Yeah, that's right.
But I think that it's helpful to have asynchronous, which for those of you who don't know, because this is clearly an amazing dictionary of a human being, it means when you are communicating not in real time.
Right.
It's so powerful to be able to go back and then set aside, say, like an hour every Tuesday, Thursday, and say, this is when I'll engage. This is when I'll check my spam inbox. This is when I will look at all of those things that feel overwhelming to me.
That's really healthy.
At the time. And I think it's so good and healthy to start setting what I see as healthy boundaries.
Totally.
For your time and your work, but also as you get more busy, which so many of us are busy. We're all so busy, and some of us are so busy, yet how are we not working, right? That's how I feel sometimes.
Yes. Email inboxes. I just sat there for an hour. And
I cleared it. And then as I cleared it, it's like a little refillable. It's like a magic cup. It's like refills.
Bottomless. Yeah, totally.
It refills again.
Totally. Well, one thing I just want to just take a moment to appreciate is you shared this hard thing, really hard thing, scary thing, publicly.
Yes.
And the response from everyone was, how can I help?
Yes.
And gosh, I wish there were a way for people to know that the default desire of humans is to help one another.
Yes.
Which is true. There is a study done across all languages, all religions, all cultures.
Right.
And the one thing that prevailed that was consistent across all of them, from places that had never communicated, from very different religious, topographical, whatever origins, was giving.
Right.
It was people hold giving and helping others as the highest human principle out there.
Beautiful.
And I mean, what a wonderful idea that
this is the perfect time to drop another mention about your wife, by the way.
Yes. Yes. Are you gonna do it?
No, you do it. You do it. No, I'm just kidding.
She's a wonderful giving human.
Yeah, there we go.
She is the reason I have big words.
Okay, great.
Yeah, she's a sociocultural anthropologist.
Oh my gosh, yes. Okay,
it's a struggle to say.
That's the fourth one on the list.
Can't spell it.
But I think giving is so important as humans because we are able to also communicate. I mean, that's part of why being a human being is so wonderful and advanced is we have languages. We are able to give to each other. Mm-hmm. We are able to explain to each other why we give. Mm-hmm. But I think it does make sense that it's such a primal urge to give and to help each other. And I think when you do those asks in a really real, genuine way, we've all seen them, not the gross, desperate, clingy, insecure, right, or demanding way. I think a lot about confidence versus ego, which I'm sure you see a ton of. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So in the room, to me, always ego is the person who goes in the party and they shout, "This is who I am," right? They're on the loudspeaker, they're like, "I'm this thing," versus confidence is that beautiful person that we've all met before goes in the room and this is who they are. That's just who they are as a person. And we are so naturally drawn to confidence in a person. Yes. Because so many of us have experienced ego. And then on the same side of that coin, insecurity.
Well, I would also say that if you go to the extremes of being either ego or insecure,
right.
it doesn't breed a response from someone necessarily.
No.
Where I think about one of my favorite books of all time is Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Of course.
I love
Such
it.
a
It's
classic book. Yes.
I know I'm from Nebraska, whatever.
No,
I love the book.
It's okay.
and there's this base thing in the book that says, people just want to feel important.
Right.
And so when you tell a story vulnerably that allows them to play a role in helping you in a way, you're actually giving them a gift.
Yes.
Allowing them to feel important.
Yes.
Which is so needed, especially on the platforms where you are so prevalent. Like, you're not like doing whatever the version of pounding your chest is and like, look at all my medals and my trophies.
Right.
You're giving people a chance when they see Goldie on the many platforms you're on. To engage in a way that feels meaningful for them and is empowering for them, which if that's not what a pitch for telling stories in a vulnerable way. Like, what a beautiful thing you can give to people.
Yes. I think exactly what you just said.
5-minute warning, you
You
guys.
bring in that person into your life, and you also weave that person into your story, right? When you give them an opening to help, and I'm sure as I am myself a mentor, and when I can, I'm a sponsor, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure you are definitely at least a mentor, and I'm positive you're a sponsor as well in your own way. And I think that when you do that, you are able to give this beautiful gift to your mentees, but I'm sure you've also been yourself mentored. And sponsored. And that's how we've both gotten to where we've gotten to in our career.
Absolutely.
Is that we've not only gotten gifts, but we've been given gifts.
Oh, no question.
Yeah.
No
we're
question.
giving gifts.
and I think there's something to be said about when you do these things and you're being a mentor to people, even when you feel like you're telling the story, the interaction with that person, I found you could learn so much from it. And there's always the opportunity to learn from someone else. And that's one of the other beautiful things is when you I don't say hook someone, but you get them into a narrative space, into that mental place with you.
A beautiful book by Nir Eyal, by the way, Hooked.
Oh, okay. Gotta read that.
Read that one.
I will read that.
Yeah. I'm just really excited that we kept talking about the way that we communicate with each other. Because to me, that is truly the heart of storytelling at its strongest and purest form is literally one-on-one. And the way that you read the other person's body cues and the way you have that conversation. And I think that when storytelling is extremely powerful is also when you can do one-to-many. And that's the great aspiration, right? Is to make one-to-many feel like deeply one-to-one.
How do you do that?
I think it's speaking to your community. I think it's speaking to people who maybe have a shared experience as you, or maybe come from a similar background to you, or whatever that shared element is. My partner runs this wonderful group on Facebook. Are you ready for it?
I'm ready.
It's the cat adoption group on Facebook.
That's a great group.
Yeah,
it's a great group.
It's Los Angeles based, but people have adopted cats. Okay, great. But people have also literally gotten jobs from this group.
That's awesome.
People, which are not cat related. People have found their romantic partners from this group. People have made friends from this group, right?
That's wonderful.
Things that make sense. They've watched cat movies. They went and watched cats. They went and watched Garfield, right? Yeah. But there's so many wonderful things that come from speaking one to many and joining and becoming part of a community too.
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's, I think there's an art and a science to it.
Yes.
And I'm excited for everyone to read your book because you're going to read a bunch of the science and the art for it.
Yes, absolutely.
But it is also one of our most powerful opportunities to invoke change.
Yes.
If you want to change people's minds,
yes,
I think it's like you can wrap up all the beautiful things you said. You have vulnerability. You have an efficient story that you tell that hooks them.
Yep.
You start a conversation. You find a way to speak to them if it makes it feel personal. Like all these things that are now these tools, which can get the positive push in the way you want, which is such a wonderful thing. And I think it's like, I'm sure this is true, and you mentioned it, but I just want to say it again, which is, this is a muscle you build.
Yes. Much like your heart is a muscle that grows, it doesn't grow with time, but is strong, right? And when it pumps your blood through your body, you feel very strong, you feel good, and you're literally alive. And I think that, but
Agreed on all counts.
I'm not a doctor, so don't quote me on this. I did study medicine, but I'm not a doctor. But I think that it's so important to definitely have storytelling also exactly what you said, be a muscle that you work on over time and that you hopefully, like I did, build your skill set also around that storytelling. Because as you know, too, storytelling around nothing real is also just fluff, right?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
That's a very good point.
Yes.
Okay, so let's say that you now was talking to you earlier on when you're just kind of getting into your storytelling beginnings,
right?
Digital marketing in New York or whatever's going on, fashion design.
Yeah.
What would you tell yourself then that you wish you had known?
Gosh, I would say, just in the simplest of words, tell the story that you know will resonate. That's it. And what that story is and who it resonates with and what it's about changes over time. But I think if I knew very early on, tell the story that resonates, it would have changed how I presented myself. It would have changed how I networked very early on, right? It would have changed also the business model that I tried to build at 22, which was a complete failure. It would have changed.
22 is good for you.
But,
You started.
Thank you. But it would have, I think, changed a lot of things and made it really clear to me, okay, tell the story that resonates. I need to find the story that goes beyond just me. Because I think also when you're young, you tell very selfish stories, right?
Yeah, you have limited experience beyond what you've done.
Yeah, and when you get older, I think that's the beauty of age. I know LA is very anti-age, but like I think the beauty of age is that you grow your network, you grow your community. You can then tell a story that resonates because it becomes beyond just you.
It's there's this Carl Jung quote that I was just talking to Jake about, which is something like, your life begins at 40.
Yeah.
Everything else is just research.
I love that.
And I think that is true of telling stories too. Like when you are out there in the world,
Yes.
you have stories that are going to resonate with a lot more people because you've seen a lot more. And
yes.
It's
So that's, I think, the other piece of advice. Get out.
Yeah.
Go out.
Yes.
Go outside.
Yeah.
Go outside. I know you're probably watching this not outside, but literally, go watch this outside.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I thought we could talk for like 3 hours.
I know.
Thank you so much. This is so great.
This is so good.
Okay, so final question is, people love this. They want to get your book. They want to learn more about you. They want to contact you. How do they find you?
So they can find me at goldiechan.com, which is where I'm located, or you could also find me on LinkedIn. Literally look up Goldie Chan, and I have green hair, so it's pretty obvious which one I am. So they can find me on either place, and I hope that they'll enjoy my book.
I think they will. Awesome. Thank you, Goldie.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it.